Tonight, millions of Canadians battered by a big blast of winter. The crashes, cancellations, and chaos.
It's a little wearisome that people maybe don't even have snow tires on.
Plus, the tech glitch that caught families off guard when Canada's biggest school board shut down. Yes! Canada's Privacy Commissioner expands his investigation into Elon Musk's chatbot.
Grok is the Wild West of AI.
The scare triggering global backlash. And Canada gets cross-checked by Donald Trump again.
I don't know. What do you think about that?
How the U.S. president went elbows up at the White House.
CTV National News with Omar Sachedina.
Good evening. A massive cleanup is underway in central Canada tonight after a punishing storm slammed into parts of Quebec and Ontario. In Toronto, the largest school board in Canada was shut, giving the nearly 250,000 who attended the day off. At the country's busiest airport, Pearson, nearly a quarter of flights were canceled this afternoon. And hundreds of collisions on streets and highways, the result of a system even Environment Canada admitted was a tough one to forecast. But as CTV's Heather Wright reports, nationwide it was a day of major contrasts.
Weather whiplash. From wind warnings in Alberta and record high temperatures in parts of the west to parts of the east blanketed in snow.
I woke up this morning, I was not expecting to see all the snow.
The snow began falling last night and continued through much of the day, with some parts of southern Ontario reporting nearly 50 centimeters of snow. In Ottawa, the storm snarled all modes of transportation from car to rail to air.
I think it's got to be breaking records this year. It has to be.
While in Montreal, snow and ice led to significant traffic delays. In Toronto, a Via Rail train with 205 passengers on board collided with a snowplow. No one was hurt, but the incident shut down the tracks for hours. Across Ontario, the storm led to highway closures and accidents.
Stay off the road if you don't need to be on them, and just be prepared.
A number of school boards shut their doors today, leading to the two greatest words for a child to hear in winter: snow day.
I looked outside and he screamed snow day.
But adding to the headache for parents, the Toronto District School Board says a glitch in its third-party email system means some families never got the closure notice. Cancellations and delays were reported at airports from Windsor to Toronto, Ottawa to Montreal.
It's all hands on deck here, and it's a coordinated effort to make sure as many people can get going as possible today.
This is the first major snowstorm to hit Toronto since 50 centimeters fell during 3 consecutive storms last February. The city's response to those storms was called a failure by the mayor, who says cleanup coordination has improved.
Once plowing is complete, crews will begin to remove snow from our streets and sidewalks.
Environment Canada says some flurries might stick around for the next few days in parts of Ontario and Quebec, but it's the cold temperatures that they say are going to be here until February. Heather Wright, CTV News, Toronto.
A warm welcome for Prime Minister Mark Carney in Beijing, who called it a new era in relations with China today. Now comes a crucial moment in a face-to-face with Chinese President Xi Jinping, the leader of a country Carney called Canada's biggest security threat during last year's election campaign. Here's CTV's Annie Bergeron-Oliver.
A grand ceremony full of pageantry in China's House of Political Power, marking the restart of a Canada-China relationship that has been largely non-existent for years.
I believe the progress that we have made in the partnership sets us up well for the new world order. It's a partnership with new focus and greater depth and a sense of purpose.
Prime Minister Mark Carney receiving a warm welcome from various Chinese leaders Thursday, who said bilateral relations have hit a turning point.
China is prepared to work with Canada to follow through on the important consensus between our leaders and move forward our strategic partnership on a trajectory of healthy, steady, and sustainable development.
Agreements signed today pledge greater dialogue in areas including forestry, tourism, culture, and food safety. On energy, the pact recognizes Canada as an important potential partner in oil and gas.
What we heard loud and clear is China is looking for reliable trading partners that don't use energy for coercion.
The Prime Minister's last full day in Beijing is arguably the most important, and Canadians are likely to find out whether Canada was successful at removing or dropping the punishing Chinese tariffs on many Canadian agriculture products. Omar.
Annie Bergeron-Oliver in Beijing, where it is Friday morning. Ottawa is confirming that a Canadian has been killed by authorities in Iran. The unidentified victim, one of thousands of people now believed to have been killed in protests sweeping across that country. Here's CTV's senior political correspondent Michael Couture.
As anti-government protests blanketed Iran in recent weeks, we're learning a Canadian has died in the hands of Iranian authorities. In a post on social media, the Foreign Affairs Minister said, "Our consular officials are in contact with the victim's family in Canada, and my deepest condolences are with them at this time." While supporting the peaceful protests, Anita Anand said Canada condemns and calls for an immediate end to the Iranian regime's violence. According to some estimates, at least 2,500 people have been killed since the Iranian regime began cracking down on protesters. The White House says 800 executions were scheduled for today, but President Trump has been given assurances they will not happen.
The president and his team have communicated to the Iranian regime that if the killing continues, there will be grave consequences.
Thursday, the U.S. imposed new sanctions on members of the Iranian government. Despite losing support in the region over the last 2 years, some don't think Iran's downfall is imminent.
In some ways, the Iranian regime is more isolated than ever, but I wouldn't underestimate its staying power because it has a fairly large repressive security forces throughout the country.
In an apparent appeal to the Trump administration, a video message from the exiled Crown Prince of Iran laid out his aspirations for the country if the current regime is toppled.
A free Iran will work with regional and global partners to confront terrorism, organized crime, drug trafficking, and extremist Islamism.
Now, that can only happen if the Islamic Republic is ousted. Meanwhile, with the recent crackdown on protesters, Canadians are being urged by Global Affairs Canada to leave Iran now. Omar.
All right, Mike, thanks. U.S. President Donald Trump is threatening to invoke the Insurrection Act in Minnesota to send in the U.S. military as tensions escalate in Minneapolis.
Oh, my God.
Clashes broke out between police and protesters after a man was shot in the leg by a federal agent for allegedly resisting arrest and assaulting an officer with a shovel. Venezuela's opposition leader Maria Corina Machado met Donald Trump today at the White House, where she brought her Nobel Peace Prize, a prize Trump hasn't been shy about wanting.
I presented the President of the United States the medal of the Nobel Peace Prize.
Neither has made it clear whether he actually accepted the medal. The Nobel Committee has previously said, however, that the award is non-transferable. This evening, Trump posted about the presentation of the prize, calling it a wonderful gesture of mutual respect. And Trump took a shot at Canada during a meeting with the Stanley Cup-winning Florida Panthers, who defeated the Edmonton Oilers last year.
And you denied Canada the Stanley Cup for the 32nd straight year by... I don't know. What do you think about that? What do you think about that, Matthew? We have a little competition with Canada. No, they're great people, though. They're great people. We're doing much better than Canada, but that's okay, right? We want them to do well, and they're going to do well.
Back here at home, Canada's Privacy Commissioner is expanding his investigation into X after global backlash over the platform's chatbot called Grok, generating explicit images of people without their consent. CTV's Rachel Aiello on the new AI privacy concerns.
In light of growing global concern over Elon Musk's chatbot Grok being prompted by users to produce non-consensual, explicit, and sexualized AI images of real people, Canada's Privacy Commissioner is expanding an ongoing investigation into X and the social media site's use of Canadians' personal information to train artificial intelligence models. The use of personal information without consent to create deepfakes, including intimate images, is a growing phenomenon that poses serious risks to individuals' fundamental right to privacy, Commissioner Philippe Dufresne said.
Grok is the Wild West of AI. The technology has raced far ahead. The laws have had difficulty keeping up.
Elon Musk's companies were informed about the widening probe yesterday, the same day X announced it would limit Grok's ability to generate explicit images. As other countries crack down, Canada's Minister of AI says the federal government isn't considering banning X, but the Liberals are trying to pass new legislation to criminalize sexual deepfakes. Omar?
All right, Rachel, thank you. New revelations about the relationship between the mother and stepfather of missing Nova Scotia children Lily and Jack Sullivan. In unsealed court documents, the children's mother alleges that her common-law partner was abusing her during their relationship. He's denied the accusations. The couple separated soon after the search began. 6-year-old Lily and 5-year-old Jack have been missing since May. Evacuation efforts are underway in the Northern Ontario First Nations community of Saskatchewan. It's the latest chapter in the long story of contaminated water plaguing the community. CTV's Adrian Gobriel with what they've been enduring for decades.
On a snow-covered Northern Ontario runway, hundreds from a remote First Nation community have boarded evacuation flights.
I'm being told by public health officials that E. coli was present in the community.
On January 4th, the state of emergency was declared at Saskatchewan First Nation amid concerns that sewage was seeping through taps into homes, contaminating drinking water. Officials took a tour of the remote community's water treatment plant today, where infrastructure damage is feared to have resulted in another E. coli outbreak.
In 2019, an agreement was signed with the Government of Canada to relocate. Not much has been done, but a lot of hurt has happened in between that time.
Saskatchewan First Nation is located on a floodplain along the western shore of James Bay in northern Ontario. For decades, contaminated drinking water has plagued this community. CTV News was there in 2005 when residents were forced to evacuate following another state of emergency. 20 years ago, promises were made.
We are assuming our responsibilities and we are dealing with the situation.
It's clear to those here today that promises were broken.
Once this issue is mitigated, we'll see a Band-Aid solution.
The fear here is that the scars from past decades have returned to infect a new generation.
We do have people that are getting sick from gastro issues.
With a do not consume order in place, purchasing a case of spring water costs $50 at the local store, a price that's simply out of reach for too many. By the end of the day Thursday, 1,000 residents, less than half who call this community home, will have been evacuated. As history repeats itself, many here are begging for a new chapter to be written. Adrian Gobriel, CTV News, Toronto.
Home sales across Canada saw a big dip last year, but new signs there could be a rebound. How significant? CTV's Abigail Beeman tells us.
My father talked about his first house that he bought was $80,000, which is now my down payment.
John Gilmer is like so many millennials struggling to buy a first home.
Feels almost like spinning tires.
Even with a household income above $200,000 a year.
The target keeps getting raised as fast as our savings.
Water building up behind a dam.
The Canadian Real Estate Association says pent-up demand from first-time buyers like Gilmer and lower interest rates fuel its new growth projections. After a 1.9% drop in 2025, CREA projects national home sales will climb 5.1% in 2026 and 3.5% in 2027. Prices predicted to climb, too, to a national average just under $700,000 this year and $715,000 next year.
People in their 30s who are saying, I need something big enough to start a family in, it doesn't exist. Or it exists in the legacy detached space, which is very expensive.
The so-called missing middle of affordable options.
People aren't necessarily interested in like a condominium townhouse or a condo itself, and they're having trouble getting into like a freehold.
Kriya says over the last 2 decades, there's been a switch from building low-density detached housing to building mostly apartments. John Gilmer is hopeful this will be his year to buy, thanks to savings, lower interest rates, and financial help from his parents.
My $2,700 a month that I'm paying in rent could be used in much better manner where I'm building equity.
The Prime Minister has committed to doubling the rate of home construction. Kriya says it has a sense of optimism about the federal Build Canada Homes Agency, but in the medium to long term. Meanwhile, the problem of affordable housing remains pressing today. Omar?
Abigail, thank you. Coming up, a survivor speaks out.
Hey boys or hey fellas, and then bang bang, and then dead silence, and I'm thinking I was that close.
The shocking new details in our exclusive interview with the former spouse of Canada's worst mass shooter. Last night, we brought you a portion of our exclusive interview with Lisa Banfield, the former spouse of Canada's worst mass shooter. She described the torment she endured for close to 2 decades. Tonight, she reveals how she escaped from the killer on the night of his deadly rampage that took the lives of 22 people. In their cottage overlooking Cobequid Bay, Lisa Banfield and Gabriel Wortman took refuge from the COVID pandemic. They spent their 19th anniversary in a building they called the Warehouse, where he kept his prized replica RCMP cruiser and also a cache of guns. After a call to friends in the U.S., Wortman loses it.
He just started yelling, and you're being a bitch, and then calling me the C word.
To escape his fury, Lisa calls it a night, but then
And he opens up the door, and he's like, get up. And then he's on top of me, and he's grabbing me by the neck, choking me, and it's like, Gabriel, like, just stop. And he goes, and I said, just stop, it's gonna be okay.
it wasn't okay. Wortman sets fire to the cottage, drags Lisa back to the warehouse, and then locks her into the back of the cruiser, collecting his guns and ammunition and putting them onto the front seat.
And I'm thinking, I gotta get out of this car.
She breaks free and escapes into the woods.
And I just started running through the woods, and it was so thick, it was just hitting me in the face. And then I just dropped to my hands and knees and just started crawling.
To the hollow of a tree where she took refuge.
I could hear things, and I'm thinking, is it fireworks? But clearly it wasn't. Then all of a sudden I heard two guys, and I could hear them plain as day. Hey boys, or hey fellas, and then bang bang, and then dead silence, and I'm thinking I was that close.
What Lisa Banfield did not know as she shivered in the hollow of a tree on that cold spring night here in Portapic is that Gabriel Wortman was on an unconscionable killing spree. With 22 victims, over 13 agonizing hours, he terrorized the province, outrunning police until the next morning they cornered him at a gas station and shot him dead.
Suspect is down.
The Mounties got their man. Now they focused on Lisa Banfield, not as a victim, but as a suspected accomplice. She gave them 4 interviews, including this visit to Portapic.
Were you surprised?
Mm-hmm.
Did you feel like it was an ambush?
That's what I felt like.
And then RCMP stunned everyone, charging Lisa and 2 relatives with buying ammunition for Wortman.
When he asked you to get bullets, did you feel that you had the option at all of saying no?
Well, I just tried to reiterate, like, why do you need more? You have lots of them. And he's like, well, you know, we need to protect ourselves. But had I have known that that's even illegal, I would never put my family in that situation. Or myself, like.
Dr. Peter Jaffe is a world-renowned expert on domestic violence based in London, Ontario, who provided an assessment to the Mass Casualty Commission that was struck.
Lisa Banfield had no choice or option. I mean, she was being controlled 100% by her abuser.
Her lawyer insists the charges, which were eventually dropped, re-victimized Lisa.
She went from being victim number 1 to public enemy number 1.
There's a local reporter who used the term the witchification of Lisa Banfield. Mm-hmm. Do you feel it's an accurate term, witchification?
Mm-hmm. I do, because people that are involved, it's sad because they're hurting and I feel their pain.
And the full 1-hour special, Victim Number 1, The Survivor, will be broadcast Sunday night right after the NFL game on CTV and Crave. Still ahead, what sparked this stunning rescue attempt in Florida? Newly released footage shows the moment a container ship collided with an oil tanker off the British coast last March, erupting into a huge explosion. The Portuguese flagged ship crashed into a tanker carrying jet fuel for the U.S. military. The video was shown in court where the ship's captain is on trial for gross negligence manslaughter over the loss of a crew member. And wild video of deputies running into the flames after an electrical fire broke out at a zoo in Florida. The officers breaking down doors, managing to save several animals. Still ahead, back to the beginning, how the very first Royal Canadian Legion is setting the stage for its 100th birthday. This year, the Royal Canadian Legion will mark 100 years of supporting veterans and serving communities across the country. CTV's Alison Bamford looks at the remarkable resilience of the very first branch.
These walls tell a history lesson dating back 100 years.
Times have changed.
The Legion was born in the wake of the First World War and officially incorporated in July 1926. Regina was designated Branch Number 1 later that year.
It's still relevant. It's still providing that necessary cushion or support for our veterans, their families, their descendants.
This week, the Royal Canadian Mint unveiled collector's coins honoring the milestone, and the Legion is offering free registration for new members to kickstart growth for the turn of the century.
So it's a matter of getting younger people like myself interested in what we do.
Another collection.
Henry Subchishin first joined the Legion in the 1960s. Back then, it was bustling with veterans of the Second World War.
The Legion was full every evening. This picture up here is from the days when we still had like 1,000+ people in membership here.
He's watched the Regina branch downsize over the last decade, both its building space and membership.
The leanest period was just before COVID, and then we closed right down during COVID.
Now the group is 400 members strong and growing. Sports leagues, weekly dinners, even leasing part of the building have helped get them back on track. They're now planning centennial celebrations for November.
It was a lot of work that they put in to get us to where we are.
Work they hope continues for the next 100 years. Alison Bamford, CTV News, Regina.
And that's a snapshot of this Thursday. Heather will be here tomorrow. For all of us at CTV National News, thank you for watching and good night.